Before we get into the video, I need you guys to do me a favour. Number 1, like the video. Also comment, let me know your thoughts on the case. Glaswegian gangster Stephen Jamieson, often known as Jimmy, was responsible for being one of the biggest dealers of coke and pills in the UK, to the tune of over £25 million worth. In 2009, the drug baron and Glasgow gangster was jailed for 8 years, along with brothers Stephen and Gary Caddis, before being released in 2013. Now police say that the gangster had brought misery to Paisley and other towns across west of Scotland. Now police say that his drugs was inadvertently responsible for over a dozen. Jimmy Jamieson was such a big deal that police set up Operation Lockdown and had assigned over 100 police officers to work on the case to bring Jamieson down. Ironically, he was caught because he was taking other gangsters and drug supplies down south so he could buy a dog for £1,800. Now, police had actually bugged Jimmy's home and also his expensive BMW, worth upwards of £40,000. In the case, police heard Jimmy talking about testing gear on the weak and vulnerable. Now, in most recent times, the crime boss spends his time between Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and his £260,000 home in Crookstone, which he purchased from taxi firm owner Stevie Malcolm. Now, Jimmy Jamieson is firmly on the police radar. In the last 3 to 4 years, police have constantly monitored the drug baron and tried to investigate his massive fortune that he insists come from selling designer dogs, such as Frenchies. His home has been raided multiple times in intelligence-led operations, which have turned up nothing because, plain and simple, Jimmy Jamieson is a smart man. Even though his name has constantly been linked with crime such as GUN importation, coke importation, and a ton of stabbings in the Glasgow area. Now, Jimmy's own brother, who was regarded as a commander for Jimmy, was jailed for 4 years for flooding Glasgow streets with Valium. 34-year-old Gary Jamieson and mate John Mack was caught during an undercover operation called Operation Blank. They were selling hundreds of thousands of etizolum tablets. Now, the dad of 5 from Pollock in Glasgow had been facilitating the sales of tablets between February 27th and December 23rd, 2019. He and John Mack had used a network of lower-level enforcers and runners to distribute tablets and collect the profits to different parts of Scotland. Unfortunately, some of the tablets resulted in people and subsequently. Now, this is why the police called the crime such a serious criminal act. Now, police say they found over 250,000 tablets in a wheelbarrow. Overall, over 825,000 tablets were recovered, with a street value of just under £500,000. However, police estimate that Gary Jamieson made millions, and this meant that his brother, Stephen Jimmy Jamieson, would have been given a cut of the profits, even though police could not prove this. It was just a theory. Now, Gary Jamieson was jailed for 4 years. Once Gary Jamieson was jailed, Jimmy Jamieson then jetted off to Dubai with his fiancée and 2 kids and vowed he would not return. It also helped that Gary was also investigated for phone tampering during his sentence, possibly warning his brother that police were investigating Jimmy also. Now, while out in Dubai, Jimmy, according to pals, had regularly taunted the police by posing in expensive clothes, such as £350 t-shirts. He was also pictured wearing expensive watches, such as Rolexes, and posing with other known gangsters like Paul Ward, whom they had become friends in jail. Now, Stephen Jamieson is an anomaly because his lifestyle is one polarised by hanging around and being in close circles with other known gangsters, like Jerry Carbin, who was well known for laundering £1 million in drug money. He was also good friends with gangster Jamie Iceman Stevenson. Now, Stephen Jamieson was said to have been also close friends with gangster Omar Sadiq, who was said to have been stabbed in Pollock, Glasgow on the main road, and it proved fatal. Sadiq and Jimmy were mates, and it was said that people knew Omar Sadiq, despite coming from a middle-class family, was known to take on jobs, hitman jobs. He had previously been jailed after he tried to ram a rival off the road before aiming a pistol in their face, along with Imran Baldi Shahid. Now, Sadiq, who was nicknamed Roger, was stabbed multiple times by a crazed knife man before being taken to hospital, and sadly he was pronounced dead soon after. Another tragedy followed, this time in October 2022. Jimmy's cousin Kevin Kennedy, who was also a Jamieson, was an aspiring DJ and also a dad, and he was fatally attacked in Kinning Park area of Glasgow just before 11:30 at a party. Now Kevin was taken to hospital, but his injuries were classed as critical. He had struggled to breathe in the ambulance, and on arrival he was pronounced dead. Now Kevin was said to have gone to the party on Cornwall Street South with a female friend. During the night, someone recognised Kevin as being a Jamieson and instinctively thought that Kevin would be to have the same temperament as the more known Jamieson clan. However, he was his own entity, his own person. Tempers flared, and of course, it proved fatal. Two men, James Small, who's 28 years old, and Ryan Kearney, who's 23 years old, were arrested in connection with the M. However, Stephen Jamieson was not happy with this. Kevin was his close cousin. Now, after all, Kevin had previously been in a motorcycle accident and had a metal plate in his head. Now, Jimmy was protected of his cousin. For this, Jimmy put word out that he would pay £200,000 and upwards for any information as to what actually happened to his cousin and why it happened. It was also said that money was no object. He would pay whatever it took to get to the bottom of this, as he was grieving. Now, Jimmy Jamieson will always be a person of interest to the police. You already know they're building a case against him, and all it will take is for Jimmy to step 1 foot out of line before he'll be arrested, and that could be for the rest of his life. Stay safe.